Welcome back. We have something exciting going on. I'm officially now starting project Crazy Sexy Cool, my TLC outfit. I said I would start it after my exam, which I had yesterday, and I passed. Life's good. And now I have roughly 10 days to put my dream outfit into reality, which I talked to you about earlier. What we're doing, first off. So the thing is, the top is fixed, and I'm wearing the prototype version right now. That one's finished, and I wanted to show it to you because I am very proud of this. This is the first top I ever made with boning, and where I shortened a separating zipper in the back. This is awesome. I mean, I'm very proud of it. This thing, all clear. That's fair and fine. We're just going to alternate white and black for the top. The pants are a little more complex. Pants I'm trying to make, and like I said, I'm going to make T-Boss's pants, which has a bit of an organic type of irregular pattern. I need to do some color blocking. So this is what we're going to do essentially, and I'm going to show you the steps how I think it will result into something that is very close to the original. I'm not going like every square has to be like the original, but the overall impression should be the same. What I did was I traced the pattern, which is the Daryl pants from Vikisews. I talked about it, and I traced them twice. So I essentially traced both pant legs front and back. So now I have 4 leg pieces, and with these I will divide them for the color blocking. In essence, I am creating a very advanced puzzle, and we'll see how good I'm going to do at this. The other thing I am going to do, because my serger is still not cooperating with me, and because I only have 10 days, I am not going to test out if my serger changes its mind. I will fully line these pants, which isn't too bad anyway, considering you're going to have a lot of seams, and I estimate they will wear a lot better when you have lining incorporated into the pants. But we'll see how this goes. So I'm going to turn you around. I'm going to show you what the pant legs are looking like right now. And then later on, once we have the puzzle pieces set up, what it's going to be then. And I'm going to go really strategically, like labeling each of the pieces. Going to be a beautiful nightmare getting these together, but I think in the end this is going to look absolutely amazing. I can't wait to show you, and yeah, let's flip you around and show what I'm going to do. Okay, these are the traced pieces, like I said. So we have twice the pant legs. What is going to happen is I will name them. So I have written down which one is right. So this is the back leg right, the front leg right, and then the same for the left. But for the purpose of not having to label this much on each of the pieces, because it's got to be quite a few pieces per pattern piece, I'm going to name the back leg right A, the front leg right B, the front leg left C, and the back leg left D. So logically, A and B go together, and C and D go together. Now, as you can see, this is all very big, and it's hard to get this into shot. I will include right now a little demo of what I am doing in the original pieces, but in a smaller format, so you can really see my process here. And that way, I think it's a little clearer and a little more user-friendly should you decide to do what I'm doing right here. So let's go. Okay, and at long last, here we are with the color block tutorial for the Darrow trousers for my TLC outfit. Now, it took me ages to set this up because I didn't really know how to do it, how to demo it in a way that is cohesive, but also what's better to look at from a camera perspective versus showing it on the real pattern pieces. That's why we're doing it right now the way we're doing it. It might still look clunky. I apologize in advance. I'm going to do better in future. Now, what I did here was, these are smaller versions. I copied these actually from the pattern layouts that Vikisews has. So I copied the front and back, and what I did in the original, when I made the pattern and divided it into the total of 72 pieces, I copied both legs, the front and back, twice, because you have a left and a right leg. That's what I did first. And I also did this to still keep the original pattern that I had glued together. I did not want to break that one apart because A, I was fully lining the pants, so I wanted to keep the original pant legs intact, and B, I knew I wanted to make these pants again, which I will in future. Now, once I had the front and back copied out twice, I did copy out the seam allowance, which is on the Vikisews pattern pieces indicated as well, the 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I did copy that as well. And also I did copy the position of the back pocket, the side pocket, and this side pocket from the cargo pants. And there's a reason for that, and you will see it as I am drawing along. To start, I started on the back leg when I started this process, and all I did was to first go and divide this roughly. And I must say, I did everything kind of eyeballing it, kind of guesstimating it, because when you look at the original, I'm trying to pop this in again, you will see that the pattern leg from the pattern goes, there is a more narrow stripe divided into several pieces, then there's a longer stripe, and then there's a more narrow stripe. So it does have kind of a, for lack of better wording, rhythm to it. But that's kind of the thought process that I went through with this. And all I did on the first piece was just divide it roughly in the middle, not quite, but almost centered. And also, just to point that out, and I'm just roughly indicating this here because it was missing and I forgot to enter that actually. So this is your grain line, and I was trying to stay with all the pieces true to the grain line, which makes it a lot easier in the end to put together and so that it makes sense. So what you want to keep in mind is that your horizontal lines are perpendicular to your grain line, and then your vertical lines are just going with the grain line itself. Now, this is the first line I did, then I moved on, and I wanted to move below the crotch line for the second segment. And then I said, okay, what I wanted to do in terms of dividing the pieces is that this line should not go through. So I said, okay, let me do one piece that is before this dividing piece and then one that is after, right? And so now, just to give you a better overview, I'm gonna start labeling these. And the way I labeled them was the back leg left was called A, and the front leg left was called B. And then for the right side, it was C and D respectively. And so I started to number them from left to right, up to down. That means you have A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5. And then I started to move on. The next one, I wanted to make a little wider than this one because this one I kept fairly narrow on purpose because you also have the back yoke sitting on top of that pant leg. So this is the back side again. And this was divided too, and I think roughly in the same area, though I did flip the colors on this to make it a bit more interesting. So let's make this one a little wider, not too wide, just roughly here. Let's go with that. I think, yeah, it's a little more narrow than the other one. And then again, I went with putting a line here and putting a line, let's say, roughly here, so that these lines never meet, so that it creates more interest again. And then this is A6, A7, A8. And then you see why I also put in the lines where the pocket is sitting, because I wanted to see where does this sit in this space, and can I actually do this if I go with two of them being the same color? Does this really disturb it that there are two pieces? Let's say both would be white in this case. Would this really look off? But if you have the pocket sitting on top of it, and let's say the pocket is black, then again, you have your point of interest, it breaks up the structure, and you're all good. And then let's go with the longer one here. I'm doing this very roughly right now. It's probably not going to be the same as I did it in my original pattern, but it's just to give you an idea. Let's take the grain line here as well, just so that we have not that many lines. This is A9, A10, A11, A12. And then we have two more. I'm going a little roughly here. This is again a narrow one. And then a wider one, which was actually even wider. Though in fairness, I must say, this got shortened in the end because the pant legs were way too long. So this is probably roughly right. And let's go with this line up. Something like this. And then going here and here. So that would be 13,
14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Actually, this is roughly what I actually did because in the end it was 18 pieces. And then I started to draft for the front. Now what I did for the front was, I do want to have the side seams line up. So what I did there was I went with the same width to line up here, so that in the end you have, and this is very off, right? The position here, I just guesstimated it. Ignore it for now. If you do your own pattern, you would have the exact position and it would make a lot more sense probably. But what I did do was, let's say you have here 1.5, and so I'm going here with 1.5 as well. This is going to be narrower in appearance, of course, because here you have the back yoke as well, and you don't have that in the front. This is 5. Let's do the 5. And also, I'm going to put in the grain line. It's the same concept, so everything goes with the grain line. Makes life way easier when you put it together like that. Going with the grain line.
This one. Now it's a lot of layering here. Let's go with 5.5. That's it. Okay.
And then let's try to keep the same concept. So what I did was I worked with going roughly in the middle here, and then I started actually fairly narrow. This is a fairly small piece here, and then I had 2 bigger ones here. Going down, we have like this, like this. I'm going really roughly here. So, and this is the beauty of it. You can do whatever you want in this case, because it doesn't particularly matter how you structure this. I wanted to make sure that on one lane I put in 4 pieces for reasons. So I'm using again the grain line here, like this. I used a really narrow piece here and just divided these 2 in 2, right? So, and then the labeling is B1, B2,
B3, B4, B5.
Okay, what do you know? I drafted now 1 piece more than I actually did in the original. Doesn't matter. You just get the gist of what I did, right? Another thing before I move on to the other side. Now, when you cut this all apart, and that's why I've also copied in the seam allowance, you have to get all of this back together, right? When you cut it in the fabric, it's all very nice, but you do need seam allowance in between all of these pieces to get them back together to be in this exact size, right? And for that, what I did do to make my life a little easier, I could have just gone ahead and after cutting this, I mean, seeing where the seam allowance already was included, to use scrap paper to add the seam allowance on each piece. But that would have probably driven me insane. So the only thing I did for my own memory was to add a plus to each end where I had to add seam allowance. So just a plus indicating, okay, here I will need seam allowance. And some of the pieces I needed on all of them. Some it's just a 2. Well, it's actually 3 here. Here it's again 3. Here it's all of them. You get the idea. So I moved through all of these pieces, and when I was cutting it out, as soon as I saw, okay, there's a plus, I knew from a fabric standpoint I had to draw in the 1 centimeter seam allowance. I used 1 centimeter as well for putting the pieces together, just for consistency. And all I did, just to go with the right leg, copied out the right leg here. All I did on this one was to flip it around and do the exact copy of what I've done on the left side. So this would have been D. The right would have been C. So we label it from C1 to all the way through to C18. And then from D1 to D, in this case 19, although my original has 18 pieces. And for the final pans, when I was cutting it out, you have to imagine now, in this case, B1, B2, I was also alternating the colors. So, and that's another thing that I added on the pattern pieces. I've added a W for white and a B for black, which kind of looks nonsense now because I'm talking about the B pieces, but you get the gist what I mean. And then I started here, for instance, because this is white, to go with black, then white and black. Here I got black, so I go with white, black, white, black, white, black, white. And you see here is a large white piece, right? From the looks of it. But if you have the pocket on top here, and this one would be black, and this would be white, this already breaks up the large white space. And this is how I went through this. And now everywhere where I had on my B leg, the front leg left, everywhere where I had white, it's going to be black on my D patterns, and vice versa. So in that case, I kind of mirrored color-wise. Not only did I mirror the pant legs, because logically it's a pair, it's not identical from the opening, from the crotch line, but also I inversed all the colors just to make this more interesting for the ultimate pant pieces. So yes, and yeah, as I mentioned, here on top with the yoke, I separated that too into two pieces. And let's say this was white and this was black, then in the yoke it would have been black and white, just to break that up again. I hope this is helpful a little bit to understand where I was coming from and how I managed to divide these 4 pant legs into 72 pieces and get them back together in the same order. I think it helps just to have a structure and to also scribble down little helping guides, like the little pluses for the seam allowance, or to scribble down which color you use, especially if you went now with more colors than 2, or you went with even more pieces, which I probably wouldn't recommend. This was already driving me nuts enough, but you get the idea. So yeah, back to my journey on putting these together. Sorry, I love doing that. This is the work I did last night. We have 4 pant leg pattern pieces now parted into various pieces. In total, I have 18 pieces per pant leg, which now leads me to having 72 pieces. Well, not right now, but thanks to the magic of editing, you will see we now have 72 pattern pieces. So it's now all broken apart. I had to mark white and black. You will see throughout that I have a W here for white and a B for black, which makes the most sense to me. Also, in terms of marking the pattern pieces, I always went left to right and top to bottom, so that these go together, hopefully in a good logic. And now we will start the cutting process, which should be fun. All right, stay tuned. Hello, shiny happy people. I'm coming to you from the past, so to speak. When you see this, this is going to be probably a past insert into my project. What's happening here is I am making the Gera top. This is a wearable muslin that I'm preparing just to get the fit right before I go with the final fabrics, which you can see here, all stacked up. It's chaotic as ever, but this is my first version of the top, and I had to pin away quite a lot so far. So I already did the fitting off camera. Just wanted to showcase what it looks like. I might get a little bit off the shoulder here as well, because I feel I might nip off a little bit of that. And then what will happen is when I take this off, I'm going to transfer all of these adjustments directly onto the pattern, so that when I do this the second time in the original fabric or in the final make for my TLC make, it is going to hopefully fit first time around, and that way I don't have to go through a million alterations, because I only have kind of 9 days to finish the whole outfit, which is terrifying but also exciting at the same time. Okay, so moving on. But this is a gorgeous pattern, actually. I really like it. Just has to fit right, correct? And the only thing I did not put in here, and I hope this is not, we'll see how it goes, but there's no boning in here yet. Simple reason is I don't have boning. I have boning, but not the type that they want. So I ordered it yesterday. It should arrive by tonight, but I wanted to get this together and do a fitting. So yeah, that's what that is. All right, moving on into the future. All right, it's day 3 of project TLC, and I am going to actually show you myself cutting out this whole madness, all the pieces in white. Now, over here, I have my stack of black, which is all the pieces that I needed to cut out in black. There are a couple more here in the back in black, which also need to be cut out in white. So I'm going to do that. And what makes this process really tedious is that I have to interface every single piece. Every piece for the pants, because the dupioni silk that I'm using is, I mean, dupioni silk itself, it has structure, but it's still also very floopy. So this needs a bit more stability, especially for the cargo pants, and yeah, obviously also for the corset top. This is gonna be a long one. So I'm gonna put you on time lapse, and you can just watch me lose my mind here while I cut out everything. One thing I wanted to show you, because I have forgotten to show you beforehand, for myself to know which of the pieces require seam allowance and which don't, I have marked each of the sides that do require seam allowance with a little plus sign. So just so I know I have to add seam allowance. If there's no plus sign, that means no seam allowance. I hope that makes sense. I think it's going to make a lot more sense in the demo. But enough of the rambling. Let's get cutting. Okay, this is the right side of the future pants. So we have the back leg and the front leg. They're assembled together, and I'm very happy with the result. Also, just to quickly demonstrate, because I have the pattern piece, the original pattern piece, and I already did put this on top. Let me align this. You can see it almost fits. So the good news is there is nowhere where the fabric is smaller than the pattern piece. You can see there are some areas where it is actually larger. So I'm considering trimming that back to have a fitting piece. But yeah, this looks really good. And now I need to do this one more time for the left leg. So let's go. Day 5. We are back. I did not sew yesterday. I did prepare the pant legs a little bit, and then I did not sew anything last night because I had a stressful day at work and I was like, today's not the day and I'm not the one type of thing. And therefore we have to catch up today. We are going to put the 72 pieces back together to make it 4 pant leg pattern pieces. I hope it's going to work. I did prepare pinning together the pieces in rows. I put them on my cutting table, and now I'm going to systematically stitch everything back together. And hopefully it will be as the full pattern piece was before. I still have the copied out and taped together version of these pant legs, which is why I copied the 4 pant legs. So now you probably kind of get where this was coming from, just so I have still a template to work with. And also I'm going to cut the pant legs out of lining because I'm going to interline the pants. Without further ado, let's try and get this together, and hopefully it is going to work because I have no backup. I have no security net to fall back onto, and we have 1 week until the concert. Fun times. Put you on time lapse. It is much later in the day. Well, it's evening. I mean, it's not super late, but it's evening. And I have a victory to announce. The pant legs are all together. This is the one where I already stitched on the back yoke. And when I was thinking about this, something dawned on me, and that is, since I'm using equal parts black and white, also in terms of every other piece outside of the 4 pant legs, I have to do a lot of top stitching, and I will have to switch thread every time I use black. I have to rethread to have black thread, and every time I do white, I have to change again, which will be extremely fun. I already know. Other than that, though, these 4 pant legs are now down, and I will pause on the pants and start on the top. I will just assemble it tonight, just getting another 15 pieces together. This is so insane. There's so many pieces. There are over 100 pieces if you count like all of these little pieces in the pant legs. I wanted to get this together to do a fitting tomorrow morning, and then hopefully I will get the top done fairly quickly because I really want to get this done. I did it before. I know how it works now. I'm more worried about the pants because I haven't done these before. And there's a lot of little elements, a lot of pockets, belt loops, all of that stuff involved. So I really want to get through the top first. Let's see. I'm going to put you on time lapse while I stitch together the top tonight. Maybe I put on a movie. I can't find a good movie right now. I was watching, when I was putting this together, I was watching The Big Lebowski, and I think that movie was so good. No other movie is going to beat that today. So it's, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what I find. But yeah, you go on time lapse. I'll stitch together the top. Let's do this. We have progress again. This is the top, and I've just put it on for the first and probably last fitting because it fits really well. And this goes to show you making a mock-up in advance is a good idea. So let me step back and show you. This is the Gara top in black and white. And yeah, I can't tell you much because it just fits. I don't see that I really would need to make any further adjustments. And I don't want to go too much in because the boning's not in yet. So I'm doing it like with the first version. I didn't want to put in the boning to then take it out again and then to stitch it in again. I didn't want to bother. This is just the shell. And yeah, I really like this. This is very cool. I like the effect of the black and white together. Yeah, I don't have much more to tell except for I'm going to move on. I'm going to prepare the boning. I'm going to take the learnings from my first version to make this one even more perfect. And then, yeah, we're going to get this together. I'm going to cut out the lining now too, interface the facings of this top, and prepare also a couple other things for the pants. And then we just keep on moving, keep up the momentum. It's day 6, and yeah, I don't have that much more time. Thankfully though, tomorrow is day off here in the US, so I have all day to just sew and take care of myself. I don't have to work. It's brilliant. All right, let's keep moving. Yes. Day 7, we are going for less talking, more sewing. I have my boning for the top. I'm gonna measure that out. What I'm doing usually is I measure each piece and then I am putting it in right away into the top so that I'm not getting confused. And then we're gonna put together the lining and see how far we get on that. Putting on time lapse. Enjoy.